Good evening and welcome to the news here on TV2 for this Wednesday, March the 14th. It's news you can count on. We've got news about the student walkout. We've got news about the hospital board meeting. The European Union puts the Virgin Islands on the blacklist, and here comes an update from FEMA. We'll have all the news for you coming up right now. Good evening. Welcome to the news here on TV2. I'm Alex Randall. This is news you can count on. We've got lots of stories for you, and they're coming up right after this break.
We want peace!
We want peace!
Stop the violence!
Stop the violence!
We want peace!
These were the chants heard at various schools throughout the territory on Wednesday in support of the national walkout. The walkout, which is organized by Youth in Power, is both a memorial for school shooting victims and a protest for action on gun control. Students and teachers walked out of their classrooms with posters and orange ribbons for 17 minutes to honor the 17 people who died at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida. The walkout is meant to show the nation that it's time for a change, and here in the territory was the same.
Do not be so self-centered to think a shooting in Florida does not affect you. Do not be so shy to think that you, one person, cannot have an impact. Today you've all displayed an act of leadership. Today you have taken that first step towards changing the status of the United States. I know none of you are here merely because you got 17 minutes out of class, but that you're here because you feel there's something terribly wrong with our country whereby we have school shootings where innocent people die on a regular basis, continue to do the same thing over and over again.
The Virgin Islands Montessori School and Peter Gruber International Academy had a prominent role during the walkout. Not only did they live stream for Good Morning America, today hits home because the mother of one of the two Virgin Islanders that attended the Parkland School at the time of the shooting spoke about the importance of today.
So what we're doing here is very important because it hit home, you know, and people wonder why we're doing it in the Virgin Islands, because we had two Virgin Islander students who left from after the hurricane to go up there and thinking it would be better, but they end up being traumatized, traumatized from the situation. We have one student in St. Croix, and my daughter is the next student. So I'm honored to say I'm glad that what y'all doing, it makes a big difference. She was home and she feel very, loved, and the support what she got here really helped her get through these past couple weeks there.
For News 2, this is James Gardner.
It's not just here. It was nationwide. It was all over the country. Thousands of schools, no, tens of thousands of schools. Students walked out and said, enough is enough. It's the 1-month anniversary of the shooting that happened at the Parkland School. 17 young people lost their lives. And in every school across the country, students are traumatized. They're afraid to go to school. They're afraid of the violence that might happen. And they're leading the rest of the nation saying, we have to stop having this many guns in this many people's hands. They're asking for sensible gun regulations and no guns in the schools. They're not asking to arm teachers. They're asking to stop having guns in the hands of quite so many people. With the hashtag enough, and with a motivation to try and make a change in our society, the students are leading the way. We'll have more on this in the second half of the news. Right now, how about the hospital board? They met today. What was it all about? Here you go.
We have followed every single step.
Procurement processes may delay the arrival of dialysis trucks to the Juan F. Louis Hospital.
We have followed every single step of the procurement that have been provided to us at the Juan Louis Hospital. And I have the team and I have the procurement binders. If they were needed, they were been provided.
The Territorial Board of Directors abstained on voting for the authorization of a contract not to exceed $3.8 million with Odular, a mobile healthcare manufacturer.
Such that there is an emergent and exigent need for installation of an appropriate interim dialysis facility on St. Croix that will be able to deliver vital dialysis services so as to allow evacuated patients to return to their homes on St. Croix, pending the rebuilding of a permanent JFL facility.
The Commissioner of the Virgin Islands Department of Finance, as well as other members of the board, wanted more documentation on the vetting of the dialysis contract.
I don't think the entire binder of procurement that the governor Juan F. Hospital undertook was sent over to Commissioner Collins. They have a right to request information at this time. Nobody in this territorial board is delaying any process.
Under the contract with JFL Hospital, Odular medical professionals are responsible to provide 2 modular units with 6 chairs in each mobile unit. The contract is proposed for 1 year.
The decision made by the Finance Committee and the District Governing Board, I believe, have drafted the equipment lease agreement, which incorporates the terms as approved by the board and as proposed by the vendor.
St. Croix District Board members pleaded for urgency on the contract vote because 100% of reimbursement from the Federal Emergency Management Agency for the territory ends on March 15th. For News 2, I'm Stephanie Shalana Brown.
You need a little bit of background. If a person has kidney failure, they need to go on dialysis. And they have to go in several times a week to sit in the chair and for several hours have their blood cleansed of the pollutants that move in just in normal living. When the storms hit, our dialysis equipment failed and all of our dialysis patients had to be transferred to the States. They're still there because we don't have the dialysis equipment here to take care of them. This contract has to get finished by the deadline or we lose the ability to have FEMA pay the cost of the contract. Ultimately, all of the dialysis patients need to come home and we have to have dialysis equipment at all of our hospitals and clinics. But that's waiting to happen. This is one step on the way. The European Union put the Virgin Islands on their blacklist. What's that going to do to us? Let's find out.
On Tuesday, March 13, 2018, the European Union's list of non-cooperative jurisdictions in taxation matters was adjusted to include the U.S. Virgin Islands, with the Bahamas and St. Kitts and Nevis, which adds further strains to the perceptions of the already mired economy of the Virgin Islands. The EU's list was developed in 2017 in collaboration with the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development to promote good governance in taxation worldwide and to maximize efforts to prevent tax avoidance, tax fraud, and tax evasion. While the EU Council agreed to place the screening of tax systems for Caribbean jurisdictions on hold due to the hurricanes of 2017, the process restarted in January with the submission of letters requesting commitments from the island nations to remedy EU concerns. Some issues that led to the EU Council's decision was that the Virgin Islands has a harmful preferential tax regime and did not clearly commit to amending or abolishing it. Also, it does not apply to the BEPS minimum standards and did not commit to addressing these issues by the 31st of December 2018. Although the EU Council has already made the Virgin Islands a new addition to the tax haven blacklist, the government of the U.S. Virgin Islands responded through the Public Finance Authority in a statement. The PFA claims that the EU included the U.S. Virgin Islands without justification and the lack of evidence that the USVI has been used to evade or avoid any taxes imposed by the European Union member states. The PFA further claims that as a territory of the United States, the U.S. Virgin Islands is subject to U.S. laws that deal with ownership information for financial assets, and that provides for sharing tax information. The U.S. Virgin Islands is neither a secrecy jurisdiction nor a so-called tax haven and will continue to cooperate fully with the U.S. federal government in implementing laws that provide for transparency and exchange of information. While St. Lucia, a fellow Caribbean island, has been removed from the EU list, the USVI is in a precarious situation to prove to the bond market, international market, and now the European Union that it is fiscally sound and credible.
This one's a conundrum to all of us because the European Union's put us on their blacklist, but it doesn't seem like they have any good reason to do that. Nothing changed in our tax laws in the last long time that would have triggered this blacklist. So where did it come from? Well, none of us are really clear about that. What does seem to be going on is that following the storms, the European Union looked at us and spent more time thinking about things, but there's been no changes to our rules or regulations. Moreover, our tax laws are just the United States tax laws. We get what they give us. So we are not in some kind of violation of any kind of international tax laws, and we're certainly not a haven. Maybe they meant the British Virgin Islands. Maybe they got us wrong. Maybe this will get fixed. But in the meantime, we're on a blacklist. And it means that people are saying that's the wrong place to do business, and that's not good for us. We've got a lot more news for you right after the weather. Let's see what's happening.
Weather has been beautiful here around the Virgin Islands. We've had lots of sunshine, just a couple little passing clouds, but all the moisture is well off to the north. You can see some wet weather up near Bermuda. That's not going to impact us, at least not for quite some time. And we continue to see trade winds flowing. I think those trade winds are going to be picking up a little bit as we go into the next few days. Looking at our close-up satellite imagery, and again, couple little passing clouds, not a whole lot to speak of here. This trend of dry weather should remain. Forecast for tonight is clear and humid, temperatures in the low 70s. Your forecast for tomorrow in St. John is going to be sunny and nice in the low 80s for high temperatures. St. Thomas, similar conditions, 82 degrees. And your forecast for St. Croix, 86, feeling rather warm there, but pretty pleasant as long as you don't mind the humidity. Okay, let's talk about the marine forecast. On the Atlantic side of things, we do have a small craft advisory in effect. That's because our waves are up to 7 feet in height. Your winds coming out of the southeast up to 15 knots. And on the Caribbean side of things, the waves still pretty choppy, so we want our small crafts to use caution. Those waves up to 6 feet in height. Your winds pretty similar at 10 to 15 knots there. Looking at the extended forecast, looks pretty nice for these next few days. We're going to be in the low 80s straight through the weekend and even on into next week. Mostly sunny skies. And as we go through the weekend, I think those trade winds will pick up a little bit more. That's going to increase that threat for a passing shower. So wouldn't be surprised to see that happening on Sunday and into Monday. But other than that, your temperature forecast looks incredibly consistent. High temperature around 81 to 82. Your overnight lows will be in the low 70s with plenty of humidity. Have a good night.
FEMA mitigation specialists are offering free home repair and building advice through Saturday, March 17th at Plaza Extra West in Frederiksted on St. Croix and Price Smart at Charlotte Amalia on St. Thomas. Mitigation specialists will be available for consultations and literature on making homes stronger and safer from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. through Friday and 9 a.m. through 2 p.m. on Saturday. Stay in touch with FEMA to check on the status of your applications for assistance or to check on your determination letters by calling 1-800-621-3362. Phone lines are open 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. Survivors may also check on the status of their applications with FEMA by visiting disasterassistance.gov on the internet. Visiting FEMA at facebook.com/FEMA U.S. Virgin Islands provides hurricane survivors daily updates and resources such as outreach efforts on rebuilding and repair advice or the Emergency Prescription Assistance Program.
The Department of Health would like you to know that it's not too late to vaccinate. You can get your free flu, tetanus, or pneumonia vaccines this Friday from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Sugar Estate Post Office. That's this Friday from 9 to 1 at the Sugar Estate Post Office. But if you can't make it, let me tell you how you can get your shots. On St. Croix, you can go to the Island Medical Center from 10 a.m. to 12:30 and from 2 to 3 p.m. They have lunch from 1 to 2. At St. Thomas, the Schneider Medical Center, 8 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. and from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. They have lunch from 12 to 1. In St. John, Services are available the first Thursday of every month at the DeCastro facility from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Flu, tetanus, and pneumonia vaccines are available at all locations. And remember, Virgin Islands Department of Health cares about you.
And we care about you, and we want you to have your roof, and we want you to get what you need from FEMA. The free home repair information at Plaza Extra in Frederiksted is coming up Friday and Saturday from 9 to 2, and at Price Mart in St. Thomas. And it really makes sense to make sure that you're getting everything that you can in the recovery from the storm. Meanwhile, taking care of your body by getting inoculations is really important. Flu shots are available, tetanus shots available. These are ones that everybody should have those up to date to avoid any kind of medical ailment that could be avoided. Inoculations are good for you, and they'll save your life. Now, let's check a little bit more about that school walkout.
In our communities, Virgin Islanders are just as affected as people in the mainland, as we have the highest per capita homicides than any other state, commonwealth, or territory in the country. Figures show that murder rate has increased by 10% in 2014 to 2015 and is constantly rising. It is our duties as Virgin Islanders and American citizens to advocate for a change in our gun policies, to demand stricter gun laws and create higher standards to qualify for handgun and semi-automatic weapons.
Today at 10 a.m. we hosted our school's walkout alongside a couple hundred or 1,000 other schools and workplaces around the country. And it was pretty good. We got what I think was majority of our high school, if not everybody in our high school, out to participate.
It's really important to us at the school, I think, to have our voice heard and to stand in solidarity with the people who died a month ago in Parkland. And this is important not only to remember them, but also to push for change in the future and just let everyone know that enough is enough, and we're tired of mass shootings and we want to feel safe when we're at school.
She called me and I couldn't understand what she was saying. She was just crying like it's a shooting in school. So I was like, calm down, let me know what's going on. Are you okay? And then she just been crying, and the phone cut off. I tried to call her back, I couldn't, so I was done getting frantic because I called her aunt. They couldn't get to her. The shooter was still at loose, so it was like a really, devastating moment. And I had to call her dad and say, please call her, try to calm her down, and it just been like, it was like terrifying. Like, you don't know if she's gonna come back on the phone and say I'm okay. You don't know what to think. It's like, you don't know what the next call gonna be. So it was just like panicking until we could hear that she's okay. So we just been on the phone constantly with her aunt, because her aunt had to go to the school and get her. So we, maybe like an hour after, we found out she was okay. But that moment was just like unbelievable. Don't know what to do because you feel helpless, that you can't help. And you don't know, it's like, I'm scared, That's the text I got. It's like, I'm scared, it's a shooting in school.
You hear the fear in their voices. You hear the concern that there could be another gun shooting somewhere, in some school, anywhere, any school. And that's enough to put the fear of guns in the minds of every student going to every school. They're saying enough is enough. And interestingly, it's the students who are leading in this. Their parents are coming along with them, but the students are the ones who are saying, we don't want to be afraid going to school every day. For those of you who are my age and older, you'll remember the Vietnam War and how the students went to the streets and held protests that eventually changed the government's mind. Maybe that'll happen again with school guns. We'll have more news for you in just a second. First, this. The Government Employees Retirement System had its day in court on Tuesday. They went before the court asking for $213 million they say is owed to them by the government. District Court Judge Curtis Gomez said the Virgin Islands government owes at least $41 million, and he gave the government until 3 o'clock, March 21st, for the two sides to come together on a proposal for how the government should make its payment. Now, you all know when you get a paycheck, the employer takes take some of the money out for taxes. Well, the government's been taking that money out for taxes, but it hasn't been sending that money over to the GERS. It's a kind of stealing when you look at it. The district court judge said that the government would have to pay. Meanwhile, the government's defense attorney said, no. District court doesn't have jurisdiction here. It's got to be dealt with by the government. And they say this is a 25-year-old matter that goes back to a consent decree back in 1994. GERS says, just pay up. It's simple. We've got other stories in the news right now. We've got things coming up tomorrow you need to know about. Army Corps of Engineers will be doing their last roadside pickup tomorrow. So if you don't get your debris out on the roadside by tomorrow, you're going to own it forever. And there's free produce tomorrow on St. Croix, the Kings Hill Farmers Market. Government Employees Service Commission Health Insurance Board has a wellness program, and they'll be making bags of free produce available first come, first serve while supplies last tomorrow, Kings Hill Farmers Market. And you're reminded the month of March is gaming month. Lots of people like to play the games, the slot machines in the various locations. You're reminded if you have a problem with gambling, have a conversation with someone about it. Southland Gaming reminding you it's a good idea to have a conversation about gaming problems. So there's our news for Wednesday, March the 14th. It's a school walkout. We saw all about it nationwide. We got on the European Union blacklist, and FEMA and the inoculations available to you. Remember, this is your news. If you see something, shoot a picture with your phone, make a video, send it to us. We'll share it with everyone. Good evening, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow.